thank you for coming out, and you've been the videographer, the photographer.
All the time.
Just all over. So we really appreciate you for coming out and showing your support. Again, I wanted you to tell the people who you are, what you do, and how we can find you, and what you have coming up.
All right, well, hello everyone. My name is Sedric Acevedo. I'm a first-time director. I'm also a disabled filmmaker. Thank you. I've been in over 3 car accidents that were not my fault, and I can't speak of them because of legalities, but you know, it really changed my perspective on life. Being stuck in your bed for an extended amount of time, like weeks without showering, and you know, I had the option to either lose my whole body, lose my legs, lose my brain, and just wither away, or put my brain to work and do something that I felt could make a difference in the world. So right now I'm working on my first feature film called Between the Blue and Invisible Ultraviolet. I actually wrote up the handle on the wall over there. It's short form for BTBAIU. It's a film about everything, about what life is like without the rat race, without, if you pulled away the working, the eating, the using the restroom, the sleeping, what is life, you know? And I start from my mother's immigration or migration to America, showing what it's like to be undocumented, what it's like to come from violence in a third world country, in El Salvador in the 90s when the war had just ended and MS-13 or other rival gangs were trying to get young people recruited or women to get pregnant. Like, that was what life was like. And so I'm telling that based in truth. And then it fast forwards to my birth and eventually my sexual abuse that happened to me at the age of 4. And after that, the film jumps to me being 11 years old, where I had my first wet nightmare. You know, I woke up in a puddle of my own urine, and just what life was like at that point, and how the closeness with my mother, the promise that I made to my sexual abuser when I was 4, you know, telling him that I won't tell anyone, to save my mother's life because he threatened her life. And ever since that day, I had to hold that promise in and let it fester within me, you know, not being able to tell the one person that you love ever so deeply something that happened to you. You just bottled it in. And then unfortunately, my mom got into a car accident and she got L4, L5 disc inflamed and had to have surgery where they fused her disc. She was just never the same after that. I had to, you know, grow up at a pretty young age, around the age of 11, helping her cook, helping her clean, bringing her up the toilet, up the stairs. But in the film, you don't see all of that. And that's not the point of the film. The point of the film is the love that we shared with each other throughout, you know? And unfortunately, after that, it fast forwards to her dying of cancer, which is another unfortunate thing that happened along the way. But I'm showing it through the perspective of me growing up as a kid, of me not knowing how to fill out paperwork or knowing what chemicals they were putting in her or what it really meant to be stage 4 type B cancer, endometrial cancer. And so being thrust into that world, already having survived what I survived and continuing to have to try and fix things, and then unfortunately she did pass away, and then have to deal with the grief, have to deal with the rat race of life, you know, having to work, having to provide for yourself, because I was ejected. I was just a single person, you know. And amongst all that survival, I was hit again and again and again. And I could have chosen any of those moments to quit, but I didn't. And so that's what this film is about. It's about showing people that you can fall very dark into a dark hole, but how do you get out of it? And so the film in itself is the way out of it. The film is a 5-act film, and it shows, like I said, the traveling of my mother, the migration of my mother from El Salvador to America, my birth, what happened to me, my childhood with her, her passing, and then what that did to me as a person, you know, falling into drugs, falling into addictions, self-neglect, caregiver withdrawal, all of these things in the scope of COVID-19. You know, we all went through it, but it was very hard for me to complain about my life, saying my mother passed away, and people would just say, oh, well, I have a grandmother who has COVID, she also passed away. So it was very hard for me to connect with people because it was just trauma bonding. And I think that I trauma dump a lot, but I'm doing it with a purpose now, which I hope the world will see, and I hope that I can give a shred of empathy. That's all I hope for with this film, is to change the way that we all think about each other, the way that we judge each other. Because I'm crucifying myself on film, showing all the good, the bad, the ugly of my life every single time that I smoked, every single time that I took a pill, or that I just wanted to forget, because I'm not alone. Many of us in this room are recovering addicts or in sobriety, and I just feel it's very important that we stop being so silent about these things and we start talking about it. Otherwise, other children who were like me at the age of 4, forced to be silent, don't ever say anything, and then they grow up to be a 30-year-old person and they just feel lost, feel invisible. And that's life in general, you know. When my mom got diagnosed with cancer, we didn't know anything about it and had to teach ourselves, what is chemotherapy, what's gonna happen to her, how long does she have, what do we do about life after the fact, you know? Like, these are things that when they happen to you for the first time, you don't really know how to navigate it. And I hope that I can use my story to help other children, other young adults, other potential abusers, or people with mental health issues, to watch someone go through it so they don't feel alone.
Awesome.
So they know how to navigate
Yes, let's definitely dig up for
Yeah.
that. I really love
You're,
some.
you're giving an example of like how, like, if I can do it, they can do it, right?
Well, so the film sits in a 5-act structure, and it's also heavily rooted in science and truth. Everything about my film is derived from something, from a VHS tape, from a letter my mom wrote in Spanish, from a Polaroid that I have from when I was 4 years old. And I had to do the hard work of reconnecting my whole life, because when I watch those VHS tapes of myself as a 4-year-old, I don't remember that. You know, I one day woke up at the age of 11 and I had consciousness. I woke up from a nightmare. Everything before that
So
was
you've
kind
got
of a
this
blur.
reoccurring theme of perseverance. So
Perseverance.
where do you see
Perseverance.
yourself like in 10 years?
Well, you know,
Based on all this perseverance, it's like, what's the purpose, right? It's like you're gonna, where do you see yourself?
Well, you know, the truth is, I'm currently in the 3rd act of my film still. I haven't reached the 4th act. The 4th act depends a lot on the next steps that I'm doing. I made an interactive website where you can interact with my life. You can click VHS tapes, open up those tapes. You can click music and hear the music from that era. But I guess to answer your question, where do I see myself in 10 years? Where I see myself in 3 years is, you know, South by Southwest film is presented to people.
Yeah.
But the film doesn't just stop there. Once you release it, there has to be some sort of movement behind it. And that has been the question that I've been asking myself for the past couple of weeks, is why should people care? Why should people donate their hard-earned money to this film? Or what is its purpose? Because if you took all of that away, it might look like a vanity project, but I want to make something very clear that it's not a vanity project, because otherwise I would make myself look holy and amazing. But I'm showing you all of the darkest parts of my life, because I'm allowing the world to judge me so that they can see themselves in it like a mirror. But when you ask me what happens in 10 years, I would like to have the film shown in prison as a part of reformity. You know, show it to potential or people that have committed those acts of violence, sexual abuse. Doesn't matter what type of abuse, but just show them what one moment can do to someone else's life for the rest of their life. Or I would like to show it in mental health institutions. So the way the film is broken up into those 5 acts, you know, the first act is about the migration, the second act is about childhood trauma and caregiver exhaustion. The third act is about the loss of a loved one, how to survive homelessness, poverty, not knowing where you're gonna sleep the next night. And the fourth act is about how do you battle your inner demon in your life story. I'm actually gonna go toe to toe with my inner demon. His name is Oblivion in the film. And I want to be able to show people that as a filmmaker, you can make a whole set scene or an action scene and I control it, you know, I am directing it. So I want to battle him and I know the outcome, but I'm not gonna make it easy because life isn't easy. You You know, I could have it to where I hit the guy with the sword one time and he falls apart, but I want to have it be a 3-level boss battle, you know, and it feels like I'm going to lose at every step of the way, but I use my childhood to save my life.
How's your poem fit into that?
So this poem is titled Between the Blue. So the film is called Between the Blue and Invisible Ultraviolet. This poem I wrote maybe 3-4 months ago when I started working on the website. I really wanted to just give you a sense of what it feels like to be me, what it feels like to know that all around you is sadness or turmoil or abuse or all of these things, and yet all you want to do is find happiness in that. You know, because I became a very depressing person to be around, you know. Oh man, all this guy talks about is his mom's death or cancer or how he has only $5 in his pocket. And, you know, that's because you talk to people. You're not talking to trained therapists or stuff like that. But for me, art is the way that I deal with things. You know, I've been to therapy. I've gone to maybe 2 years worth of therapy or even physical therapy if we add that onto it. But it's just hard to get the point across when all you're using is words. And so I thought, what better way to do it than to make my life a movie?
You feel like a cathartic release, right?
Exactly, but I hope it also starts the conversation with other people as well. You know, it's not just, we're happy that this guy defeated his demons, let's all just clap, movies over. No, the point is, you're supposed to watch it and reflect on your life and see why are you the way you are and what you can do to be a better human being. Because we are living in a world where it's just too much judgment, and that's one of the greatest sins, I think, alive. You know, if once we can learn to appreciate and accept everyone for who we are, then we can truly grow as a human race, because right now we're just countries.
Correct. I definitely want to commend you for sharing your story, giving us, you know, some background information on your film and how important it is to do so. Like that's what I was saying earlier, that's exactly pretty much why I started Beauty Over Bruises, because I wanted to, the tag that we live by with that is together as a community, you know, we can break the silence, you know, and that's always the thing we want to do. Like you said, just being able to empathize with one another, understand that we're all human, we're all in this world, we're all surviving something, you know, which is important for everybody to be able to look at each other and be able to relate on some type of level to understand, like, hey, you're no different than I am. We all bleed the same color blood.
We're all one accident away from being disabled.
Definitely. I too myself have been, goodness, in a few car accidents. I've head on with them. I mean, I'm a breast cancer survivor, so I've chemotherapy, radiation, so I totally understand already and relate to a lot of things that you've gone through and that you've dealt with. I have children that I've had to explain this to. They've had to, you know, grow and go with me as a young teenage mom surviving just that. So it's a lot of things in life, like you said, that we all have dealt with or we all have gone through, and you never know who that you are speaking to and what they've gone through. Already myself in this room have met so many beautiful people and have already realized that each of us have something that we've gone through or that we've dealt with. And to me, I think it's amazing that we can show each other, like I said, being able to persevere through everything, through doubt, and show how resilient that we really are. That's, again, why I think it's important that we can come together, network, and support each other in what we're doing. Oh, definitely. You know what to say. Right quick. Just tell us where the people can find you, Sedric.
All right. If you're interested in seeing more about my project, there's a website called BTBAIUfilm.com, where it's going to be an interactive website where you can go through the 5 acts of the film and interact and see what is the point of the story. Under Act 5, there will be 2 hyperlinks that'll bring you to a donation towards my Seed and Spark, which is for my film, everything that I might need for my film. When it relates to, you know, a camera or lighting or the budget for the warehouse I'm going to need to film all of my childhood bedrooms. But there's also another link where you can support the Village Connect, a homeless, they help people on the brink of homelessness. It's a nonprofit in Houston, Texas. All the money will go to providing meals, housing to anyone that has gone through something similar like me. My story is going to be used on that website to show how other people, other clients of the TVC are currently going through the same things that I have gone through. And just on something that you said, we just take it day by day. I'm hoping to show 365 days plus with my film and get people at the same point in life. That's all I want to do. You know that saying where your parent tells you, oh, don't do this, I did that when I was younger, and then you just say, leave me alone, mom, and then you learn the same mistake, and then you finally understand your parent. That's kind of what I'm trying to do with this film.